In today's huddle, I traveled virtually to Sedona, Arizona to talk with a wildly successful hotelier, the owner-operator of a Sunset Chateau resort. He shared his insights on the behind-the-scenes hard work required to create magical guest experiences, and also how his computer engineering degree prepared him for the beautifully chaotic world of hospitality. I hope you enjoy the chat as much as I did. Jean-Christophe Poulet, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you taking the time. By the way, I'm always pronouncing your surname Poulet. Have I got that right?
It's a tough name. It's Jean-Christophe Bouillet is my
Oh my
it's,
gosh.
not a good American name, but that's okay.
Ugh.
I've lived with it for a while, so you can call me whatever you like, though. I won't complain.
But you prefer Jean over Jean, I suppose. Jean.
Jean is good. Yeah, Jean's great.
Jean is good.
Yeah,
Jean is good.
yeah.
Well, Jean, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us on the Hotelier Huddle today because I'm very well aware of what a flat out crazy busy hotelier you are, especially this time of year because I had a little look on your website yesterday and again this morning for your resort, and it looks like you are fully booked right through the silly season. Yeah? Well done.
Yeah, this is the holiday season is kind of just ramping up and we're just starting to fill up. So it's always fun to have people back between Thanksgiving and Christmas is usually a little bit of a lull and kind of feels weird to
Okay.
be it feels weird to be empty for a couple weeks and then when people start
Yeah.
coming back, you're like, oh, this it's
Yeah.
nice to have a full house again.
Yeah, most hotel gigs are, right? Especially when you're an owner operator. That's how you roll. So a Sunset Chateau, it's been your baby since you were a baby, since
Yep,
2003.
that's right.
Um, what's one thing about the property or your hotelier approach that maybe you've stubbornly refused to change, or one thing you wish you'd evolved sooner, perhaps?
I think if I could change anything, like if I could go back in time and give
Yeah,
myself some advice, it would be to be a better to be a better delegator. I think when we
interesting.
started out, we had so little resources because it was essentially an abandoned property. It sat vacant for years and it needed everything, and we didn't have a ton of resources to redo everything. So it was this kind of slow evolution, and I just got
Sure.
so used to doing everything that when it finally was like we need more help, it was hard to I think everything I let go is hard to let go because you get used to wanting everything 100% perfect all the time. And then you realize, 90% is really good. And so if everybody's doing everything 95% perfect, that's great. And so I think if I could go back I think we would have gotten more done and had better results if I kind of let things go sooner than later. Even like something like I think for the first 10 years straight, I cooked every day, and so I was like but,
Wow. Wow.
it wasn't necessary, it wasn't like breakfast became bad all of a sudden the second I stopped cooking, but, you get in a I don't know, it's just I think to just objectively look at what you're doing
Sure.
and have better priorities and delegate and just trust that other people will put the same care in that you will, so that's probably if I could go back and change anything, that would be it.
So the F&B side, sorry, food and beverage for those playing
Yep.
hotel acronym bingo at home. The food and beverage side, that was the first discipline that you had to hand over and trust to someone else?
Well, to be honest, when we started, I was doing maintenance, I was taking care of the
Yeah,
garden, I was, like
classic.
slinging digging trenches and putting Ethernet cable and irrigation
Yes,
in, and there
yes,
wasn't anything that I wasn't doing. So it was literally everything. There was no area that I didn't touch, and I just worked really long days every day, and so I'd, come in at 6:30 and leave at 7, 8 o'clock, and then go home and work more. So, I think getting out of that was, pretty life-changing, and
yes.
it was yeah.
That's interesting because I know for sure that that's something that a lot of people who think they understand hoteliers in the hotel industry, especially hotel tech people, struggle to understand that being a hotelier, it's a lifestyle. It's an immersive job. It's not just a job you do during the day and then you go home and
Yeah.
you put the tools down and you close the laptop and you forget about it, like a lot of other aspects and facets of hospitality or the hotel industry. There's no such thing, right? It's immersive and it's a lifestyle. And I feel like more hotel school students are starting to appreciate that because I think hotel schools and university courses are getting better at sending people out on internships and out for jobs in hotels before they graduate, so they get a better sense of that. But it's an immersive lifestyle, right? It ain't just a
Oh, yeah.
gig.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not, it's not like, especially when you're a small owner operator, because we have, 25 rooms
Yes.
isn't 3 rooms, but it's also not 200. So,
Yes.
there's a limit to how much staff you can have, and it's like an
Yes.
emergency comes up and we're in a rural area, even though Sedona has a huge amount of visitors, it's at the end of the
Sure.
day, it's a rural area, and so if something breaks at 10 p.m., there may not be anybody available at all. So it's
You're the
just
somebody.
on
You're
you.
it.
You're it. So you don't wait for him, but from time to time, there's the late night call, and um, you're never really off. You're always on, and you
Yes.
just kind of learn to enjoy, I think, every moment of the day, and not kind of wait for that time, that defining, like, the day's over, now we can enjoy. It's like, no, you gotta just enjoy all the
Yeah,
time because you never know when you're gonna be working.
that's right. So on the multitasking, I call you the triple threat tango. What I mean by
Okay.
that is because triple threat tango because you are simultaneously running a chateau, brokering real estate, and consulting on taxes. By the way, I bet you have the cleanest, most perfect P&L statement, profit and loss statement,
It's very
in the
clean,
history of
yes.
hotels. I bet it is. But what's your secret to context switching between velvet ropes and hospitality and welcoming and text codes without losing your mind?
Yeah, I don't well, I mean, to me, I don't find there to be too big of a difference in a certain
Okay,
sense. Like,
interesting.
I guess I would say the hotel background overlaps into everything else,
Sure.
because a lot of times what people are accustomed to, and not so much in real estate, but in accounting, it's very dry, and
Yeah.
they're sort of just expecting to get lost. And it's like, no, it's going to be a very warm experience, be very different. Like, you don't really seem like an accountant. So I think kind of that hospitality side of things, where you're just always thinking about how can we make people feel welcome and cared for,
Yes.
and feel like they had a great experience, kind of carries over into everything else. It doesn't seem like that big of a leap in a certain sense. It is very different. I mean, you're doing a lot of contracts and
Sure.
negotiating in real estate, and I guess accounting will be pretty technical, but even so, I think you can still kind of have that same warmth. It kind of bleed over into everything. So it just feels like you're doing a different task. So it doesn't feel like I'm switching modes and I'm switching businesses, and now I have to be really serious. And
Yeah.
then I have to go be really warm this other one. I think kind of the hospitality background has pervaded everything else. So that's probably the overarching personality that bleeds into everything else, more than the others going, into hospitality. So
I love that. And I'll bet that makes you a force to be reckoned with when you go into the negotiations and love songs with your OTA market managers. If you're negotiating, I don't know, commission or a package path promo, or if you're negotiating with tech vendors, or the next time you go to talk
sure.
to your ideas friends about license fees and opera fees. I bet you're so good at that. I would love to be a fly on the wall. You could sell tickets to your next negotiation with one of your tech
Yeah.
vendors.
Oh, I don't know. It's just it's more like a kvetch. I'm like, oh, you're killing me. How did this go
Good.
up so much? You have to help me here.
Yeah.
So
Well, I used to, when I was in the game myself, I've certainly never had my own hotel, but when I was responsible for revenue and distribution management for 46 hotels for someone else's company, I used to take great joy in reminding them being, market managers, tech, whoever, that without access to my hotel's inventory, they got nothing. My
Right.
product is what they have to sell, right? Without access to
Right.
my experiences and my inventory, my perishable room nights, if I don't give you access to that perishable product that's mine, you got nothing. So try
That's
again.
right. That's right. You be a little softer touch next time around.
Well, yeah, a
But
little bit
it
less
is funny
salty,
because
less
there
salty.
is yeah, it is funny because there does tend to be sometimes a bit of entitlement, like, "We're the only game
Sure.
in town," and so, it's sort of I one of my primary food service provider was kind of being really pushy about,
Mm,
um, like, large orders in a slow time, and I was like,
sure.
I'll just use one of my other food services accounts, it's fine, like, I just won't order from you guys until, like, March." Like, "No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. No,
Oh,
no. We
no.
want your order." I was
Yes,
like, "Well, I
please.
don't wanna pay your really big fees, so
Yeah.
I'm not I understand that's your policy, but I just gonna go order from someone else for a while." Like,
This
"No,
is how procurement
we'll
works.
change it now." Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I guess they do get used to you being comfortable, but you push back even the smallest bit, and, usually people wanna be a little bit more reasonable, so
Yes. Well, it's all part of an ecosystem, right? And if everyone, that's why I call it negotiations and love songs. Um, so I'm going to give a brief, unsolicited, unpaid plug. By the way, listeners, this is not a paid ad for your property, Jean, because a Sunset Chateau in Sedona is known for its excellent guest ratings, praised for its romantic, quiet atmosphere, beautiful grounds, stylish rooms. I think you have 25 rooms. Maybe you'll correct me on that.
that's right,
With
yeah.
fireplaces, spectacular location, which I know I've been there, not to your property, but to Sedona, and service. And those uniquely Sedona Red Rock views, which I have experienced myself. And I don't know if you know this, but that very specific red shade of clay dirt in Sedona. It is very unique to Sedona, but it's very similar also to the earth in the red center of Australia. It's so similar. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
been there. I've been to Australia, but I've never been to the center, but I know exactly what you're talking about. It does, from
Yeah.
pictures, look very similar.
From going back to I'm interested in your academic start from circuit boards to check-ins, if I can refer to it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
How does a computer engineering degree prepare someone
yeah.
for the beautifully chaotic world of hospitality? And I don't know,
Uh,
are there any debugging skills that translate
yeah.
surprisingly to hotel guest relations?
Well, I part of it was I don't wanna say it wasn't my choice, but, I wanted to be more of an artist, and my parents wanted to be more of a technician, so
Okay.
I went the latter route, but, I never really had there was not ever really much joy in that for me, so I just didn't like being cloistered inside and just me and the computer and nobody else. So I will say though, as far as organizational skills and thinking through things procedurally when you're really putting together, as you're programming a large project, you have all
Yeah.
these tiny component pieces,
Lots of
and you have
moving
to get all
parts.
these
Yeah.
component pieces to work beautifully together. And there's definitely some, good amount of planning that goes into it and thought process. And I think that kind of ordered thinking
Mm,
carries over into everything. And so that was really helpful. And I think as well, like you really kind of get good at coming up with solutions for just about anything. So
interesting.
your whole schooling is coming up with solutions for problems that people may or may not know exist. And so you're kind of carrying over that same thought process in everything you do. And so I don't think it's necessarily hotel specific, but it certainly helped. And early on, it was helpful to have, I think, some technical acumen because we just it's like, "Oh, I'll install the network, no problem. I'll build a website.
Yeah, of course.
And we'd sign up for a service like, "Who's your tech contact? Me. Who's your billing contact? Me.
Me,
Who's your sales contact? It's gonna be me again.
me.
You're just
Yeah,
stuck with me for everything." So,
yeah.
certainly did help having having that knowledge, I think, and it definitely did change the way I think I looked at things overall and gave me more structured thinking. So that was really helpful.
That's interesting. And I'm just curious for a 25-room resort, how many staff do you have? Although I imagine it's a bit fluid. Does it fluctuate with demand in different
It's
times of the year?
it's pretty constant,
Hmm,
I'd say. Um, the only staff that has sometimes less hours than others would be housekeeping, but
sure.
other than that, everybody else is pretty constant. So there are, if we count myself, there's 15 of us. So
I'm glad to know it's not just the one these days.
not
I'm glad
not
it's not
just
just
no,
Shen.
not just me anymore. So that's very, very helpful.
So, in a category, I'll call it champagne problems and property lines, for instance, does your real estate broker brain ever wrestle with your hotelier heart if you're evaluating hospitality properties? And I
Oh
just wonder
yeah.
how do you wear both hats without them clashing?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of times where, I mean, we've looked at expanding, and even in brokering for other people or
Mm,
evaluating for other people, there's
yes,
times where you look at properties and you just absolutely love it. And I will say there's a few times we almost bought a
I'll
property
bet.
and it really wasn't a good idea.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
you'll love the location or the property itself or the idea of it, but at the end of the day, there's some overarching problem, that's in the numbers, and I'm not saying
Yep.
that not some things are surmountable, but there's
Yes.
other things that are just fundamentally problematic, and
Right.
there's either so expensive to fix or require so much time commitment that it's really not worth what somebody's asking for it. So to come to a price that's appropriate for the amount of additional work to make something worth its value, I think, I think that's where the, heart versus head battle kind of ends, but at the end of the day, for me, you go in with your heart, but you leave with your head, and you really have to be cautious in acquisitions like that, not to get yourself into a bad situation because there's so many it's such an up and down industry, and I just remember when we
Yeah.
started and we bought our property, I think that there were 15 hotels in bankruptcy, 15 hotels and bed and breakfast in bankruptcy in Sedona when
Wow.
we bought ours, and
Good
there's
time to
been,
buy then. If you were bold, good time to buy.
kind of. Yeah, it was an interesting time. I think a lot of people that were still open there were a lot of people still open that were still having a hard time. So
Just keeping the lights
even
on.
some of our, even some of our best resorts were losing
Mm,
money for a decade. So,
yeah.
um, definitely need to exercise some caution. So I think at the end of the day, I probably do go with the accountant and real estate hat for the
Yes.
final signature, but I definitely go in with kind of just an excitement about the properties themselves and what they
Yes.
can be and what they are and the beauty and the location and all that. But for me, when it comes down to brass tacks, I have to be, smart about not being too
Yeah.
crazy. Just
Ruthless and unsentimental, right?
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. The last time I was in Sedona, and it's been absolutely forever too long. It is on my list to go back there. I was working for Radisson at the time. Well, I was working for Carlson, which was the parent company of Radisson at the time. And I was at the Radisson golf resort in Sedona. I
Yeah, the
think that
Poco
stopped being
Diablo.
That's the one. That stopped being Radisson many,
It's
many moons ago,
closed.
right? Oh, the whole property,
Yeah,
really?
it's completely closed,
Oh, what a
for
shame. Heartbreak.
well, no, they're doing a massive renovation. So they
Okay.
closed they were sold, they had a new person come in and they closed the entire property as of June 1, and
Wow,
it should be
okay.
opening, they say this spring, but let's be
Okay,
realistic.
so maybe that's more like summer or autumn.
Maybe summer, fall, or next year, we'll see,
Yeah, yeah,
but,
yeah. Wow, that's great.
they have a great spot. They were there almost 50
Such a
years.
special spot. Yeah,
Mhm.
such a special
Yeah,
spot.
so I'm sure they'll do something great with it, and it is a beautiful property, but it it was almost 50 years old and it had very limited renovation done in those 50 years. So it was
Yeah,
time
it
for a
gets
major
tired.
overhaul, but I think it'll be really great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and that's always good, for a property like yours, it brings new demand to the destination. It's a little bit of competition, maybe, maybe not, but it brings, new demand, new foot traffic, and, it
We
makes
got plenty of
every
competition.
else. Yeah, 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 yeah,
I don't know if it's
yeah.
still the case, but yeah, Sedona used to be, I think, in the top 3 most difficult places to rank, on, like, page 1 on TripAdvisor. I think it was number 2 in the
Really,
world 'cause
really.
there's such a push towards really providing exceptional service here that there's a lot of properties that do a really great job, and so we
Okay.
ended up being, our biggest competitor, so but, yeah, it's a small town, but a lot of visitors, a lot of hotels, and we have
Yeah.
I think we're in the thousands of Airbnbs now, so there's
Wow.
quite a big supply, so for such a small town.
I have had a look at your Google rankings and TripAdvisor rankings, and I know that Sunset Chateau is, you know, very, very popular according to people who stayed there. And again,
Yeah,
this is not a paid ad, listeners. But I'm curious on your sort of sunset philosophies. Um,
yeah,
if you and your team of 15, if you could only be remembered maybe for one
sure.
feeling that you give over the years, what would you want that feeling to be when they've stayed there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I've always I guess it's that feeling of being like cared for, and so I think we've always kind of run the property. I mean, we are a family prop business, but
Yes,
I think we've always had a bit of a familial feel,
sure.
not just with guests but also with the employees, and so um, like one thing that's never changed is we still eat breakfast together every day for it's
Really?
been 20 something years. Yeah, yeah. So,
Wow.
after we
Wait,
serve the
are
guests,
you
all
still
the
cooking the breakfast, John? Are you still cooking it?
no, 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 no.
Good. Yeah, good.
No, I'm out of it. Don't worry,
Good.
I'm off the line. But yeah, we all the employees still have, it's like full staff breakfast every day, and we have some nice time together. And so I think, if I was gonna just pick one feeling, it's just that people came in and feel really welcomed and cared for, and almost like they were staying with a relative that actually wants them there. Kind of feels
Yeah,
like you're staying with family. So I think, I think that probably would be the one thing I'd want people to walk away with, just a really fond memory that they had a really, warm experience with us and really felt well cared for while they were at the property.
that's not just magic, although I do think there's probably a little bit of magic in being able to deliver that, but to be able to pull that off, it's a lot of work. I mean, I know that for sure, and, I've seen teams that try and pull that off, and they don't get it right, and maybe it is that you have the breaking bread session every morning with the team,
Yeah.
and maybe it's that, maybe it's that you've owned the property for 23 years, maybe it's a
Could
combination of
be.
things, but it's not easy to pull that off, is it?
No, it is, no, it's definitely a lot more work, and
Yeah.
I don't wanna say it's work in the traditional sense where it's, like, laborious, but
Mm.
there's a lot more to it. It's not like you walk in and you sling a couple keys at someone and a map and tell them to get out of there. So, um,
We've all been to
the
places like that, yes. That's
yeah,
no
so it's,
hospitality.
it helps that we're smaller because we don't,
Sure,
like you might have a busy day of 10, 12 people coming in. So you really spend a lot of time with people and try to help them kind of curate an experience and find things to do and just even get to know people that are your guests. And that's not necessarily possible in a huge property. It's totally
sure,
understandable. But for us it is because we're smaller and I think we all enjoy that. And so it's nice and still my parents have always I think the social aspect of it they've always probably enjoyed most, and so that's
sure.
probably that's what started my mom wanting to buy a property of that ilk in the first place was just,
Really?
yeah, she wanted to have a place where she could meet people and make them feel welcome, and so I think that's just kind of at the very core of what was always desired, and that's still kind of the case to this day.
Wow, amazing. I love that. Okay, so in closing, I have one final question to you before I let you
Yes.
go back to creating Sedona magic. Um, we could each Hotelier Huddle podcast episode with this same question, which is a final toast. If you are raising a glass to celebrate hoteliers everywhere, John, what
Okay.
would your toast be?
Um, I think I would toast to the all the long days, the unseen hard work, the quiet background details, and the way that people that the work that you put in and the love that you put in is felt by those guests long after they check out, and you're really creating people's memories for a lifetime. So, I would
I
just
love
toast
that.
to all that hard work that's unseen in the background.
Behind the scenes. I love that.
Yeah.
Cheers to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.